Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Flower House JA. Today we're baking something sweet, fresh, and full of flavor. A soft, juicy blueberry loaf topped with a zesty lemon glaze. The balance of sweet and tangy in this recipe is absolutely perfect. If you enjoy simple recipes that turn out delicious every time, then you're in the right place. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with somebody who you think loves a good home-baked treat. Now let's take a quick look at some of the things that we'll need for this blueberry loaf. Half a cup of butter, 1 cup of sugar, 1.5 cups of flour, a half a cup of milk, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon baking powder, a half a teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon mixed spice, and 1 cup of blueberries. Now let's get started with the batter for our loaf. First, we're going to cream together our butter and sugar. This is a really important step because it helps to really incorporate air into the mixture, giving the loaf a nice, light, and soft texture instead of something dense. Now that that's nice and creamy, we're going to add in our 2 eggs, which will really help to bind everything together and also adds a lot of richness and structure to the loaf. Go ahead and mix that in until it's nice, smooth, and fluffy and combined. Next, we'll add our milk, which will help to loosen the batter and add moisture. Now goes in the vanilla. Give everything a good mix so it's well combined. Now we're going to move on to our dry ingredients. First, add in your flour, which is the base that gives the loaf its structure. Next, add your salt, and it might seem small, but salt really helps to balance the sweetness and brings out a lot of flavor in most baked dishes. Then we'll add our baking powder, and this is what helps our loaf to rise and become really light and fluffy, which is exactly what we want. Now we're going to add in our mixed spice. This includes cinnamon, a little bit of cloves, some nutmeg, so it has a lot of rich spices that are really gonna add that warmth that we're looking for in our blueberry loaf. And finally, we are going to add in our blueberries. Here you can see I have about a tablespoon of flour, and I'm going to sprinkle that all over our blueberries and give that a nice little shake. The reason why we put flour on our blueberries before we put it in the batter is because we do not want the blueberries to sink to the bottom. When we add flour, the flour really helps to keep the blueberries in the middle and to the top of our loaf so that we can see it all around and not just on the bottom of our loaf. Once we have our blueberries fully coated, now we are just going to add that to our mixture. Give that a nice little fold until our blueberries are all combined in that batter and all of the flavors really start to blend together. Grab a loaf pan, a napkin, and some butter, and let's grease our pan. The reason why I like to use a napkin to grease my pan is because it really helps me to get into the crevices and corners without getting grease all over my fingers. Now, as we know, it is very important to grease our pan because we do not want our loaf to get stuck to the pan, and so the grease will really help it while it's baking to not stick to the pan so that our loaf comes out nice and smooth. Here you can see I'm just adding the batter to the loaf pan. Be sure not to press in the batter to the pan, just let it form naturally. We are going to bake this loaf at 350 degrees for about 50 minutes to an hour. While our loaf is baking, let's get started on our glaze. For our glaze, you are going to need 2 ingredients, 1 cup of powdered sugar, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. We are going to add our lemon juice to our powdered sugar, and then we're just going to give that a nice little mix. If you want your glaze to be nice and thick, add a little less powdered sugar. If you want your glaze to be nice and runny, then you're going to add more lemon juice so that it can give you that runny texture. I like my glaze a little bit thick, or I guess you could say medium, so I didn't add too much, but it all depends on your preference. Here you can see it is looking nice and creamy and really good and ready for our loaf. Once I take my loaf out of the oven, you can see I have my spatula here, and I'm just going along the pan and trying to really loosen up the edges, because as I mentioned earlier, we do not want our loaf to stick to the pan. We want it to come out nice and smooth, and so this is an important step. I grab a napkin and I turn my loaf over, and I just like to give it a good little shake. It'll take a second, but trust me, your loaf will come out nice and perfect. Here is our loaf looking nice and yummy. Oh my gosh, I love that golden brown color on it. And you can see our blueberries are in it as well, looking nice and good. I'm going to flip that over, and you can see that our blueberries are still at the top. They haven't completely sunk into our batter, which is exactly why we put the flour in the first place. I'm just going to add some glaze over. This is our lemon glaze that we made earlier. I'm going to pour that all over the top of our loaf. And this is going to really give our blueberry lemon loaf that lemony flavor that we want. Now I'm just going to slice my loaf so that you guys can see what the inside is looking like. My kitchen was smelling so good. I mean, the lemon and the blueberry, the flavors just really came together. Here is what a slice is looking like. As you can see, the blueberries make it nice and juicy and moist, and every bite was just so delicious. And just like me, I'm sure that many of you cannot wait to get a bite of that blueberry loaf. So I'm just going to take a quick little bite right here and rub this in the glaze so that I can really get everything, the blueberry, the lemon, and the sugar from the powdered sugar that we used to make the glaze. And oh my gosh, it was so good. And just like that, our blueberry loaf is done. I hope you enjoyed baking along with me today. If you tried this recipe, be sure to let me know how it turned out in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the Flower House JA for more simple and delicious recipes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.